Hello, this is Curtis Bauer here to talk to you about mediation as it relates to child custody. Mediation is one of those things that can help or can hinder. So let's get this out of the way. This is not legal advice. It should not be construed as legal advice. The topics discussed are at times of a legal and or political nature. If you feel that you need legal advice, you should see a licensed attorney in the jurisdiction where you have the legal issue, the issue requiring legal advice and or services. So, mediation is considered like an alternative dispute resolution type remedy. And the idea of it is you got this negotiator. That's really what we're looking at as a negotiator. They could be an attorney. They don't have to be an attorney. They're this neutral person that's there in the middle to just work out the problems between you and the other parent. It helps at times. If you're the mediator, you should be looking to okay, let's not focus on the legalities. Let's not focus on, oh, you can't do that. Oh no, I don't think the judge would like that. We have to be very careful, usually, in these sorts of cases because, mediators are not supposed to give legal advice. Mediators are not supposed to do anything as far as judges go. They're not supposed to be making the calls. They don't even have the authority that judges do. They're simply a negotiator. Nothing about them is binding. They're there to encourage you to settle this case outside of the court. It's not a very rigid process. It's kind of informal. You get to have your attorney over here. The other side gets to have their attorney over there. The mediator goes back and forth. Oh, simple enough. So, the funny part about mediation is you can actually negotiate stuff that you couldn't typically negotiate in a court case. See, we have this thing called, in courts, they only have the authority to visit the issues that are on file in the petition. So when that happens, it's very, very interesting that they can only discuss what's in that case, what's in the pleadings. The pleadings are like the petition or the complaint and the answer, or the petition and the answer, or the petition and the answer and the counterclaim. All of these things go together. So, when you're looking at all of those things in kind of a real world way, the court's gonna only has the authority to answer in such a way that the law allows them. So, in that regard, we have this in the legal field. There's this thing called judicial efficiency. So when that is introduced, the thing is these judges typically already have a standard divorce decree already written. You're kind of going to get a predetermined boilerplate like decree if you go to trial. That's really difficult. Nobody really gets what they want then. The judge is deciding for both of you. Even if one parent gets primary care of the children, primary physical care of the children, meaning the kids more often than the other one, even that parent is losing something. So we should really, really, really focus on working things out more amicably as parents for our children. So, mediation's an alternative dispute resolution method or remedy you could use. It's often used in child custody cases. More often than not, it's going to get ordered to be at least used. There are benefits to it. It's cost effective. It can be less stressful. if you're invested in it. It can bring about a faster resolution. Oh, excuse me, I'm tired. It's kind of like you have a lot more control over the outcome of it all, right? So you have the ability to control what the end result is. Why wouldn't you want to use those things? Another thing is in courts, you're not able to disclose negotiations unless you accept all of the terms of the negotiation, right? So, and that's generally speaking. So, if you offer something and the other side doesn't accept it, they can't then say to the court, well, they were willing to accept this then. It doesn't work that way. Confidentiality is one of those things where the court doesn't get to know that, so it's not admissible in court. It can also help the two of you as parents work towards healing and improving your relationship as parents go for the kids. So in a lot of ways, it improves the communication. It improves the total climate of your relationship in a way that it improves things. So we want to be able to promote healing, especially for the kids' sake. Are there pitfalls to mediation? Absolutely. Google says it's not legally binding, not unless you agree to it and it's adopted by the court. Not suitable for all cases. That's what Google also says. It says that there's a lack of confidentiality. That's not entirely true. It's not usable in court. I apologize. My cat's going crazy in the back. You have to agree in order for you to use the terms. So sometimes, now I've seen this happen, there are attorneys. Yeah, there are. It's sad. That lack the motivation to settle a case. And I'm going to warn you, some of those are for good reason. Some of those are for not so good reasons. There are attorneys in this world that do like to run up the bill. You know how they run up the bill? Well, they got to bill more hours. Well, I think if you were not working on an at-cost product, so a flat fee, then you're going to be more motivated to run up the bill if you want to get paid more. So that's kind of a double-edged sword. So if you were notorious and you develop a reputation for running up a bill, well, eventually it gets out. It might take a few years, but it does get out. People get upset with you. People recognize that and people figure it out. There are several cases where I've seen this. Yes. And no, I'm not going to tell you who. That's also a double-edged sword. So, but what I will tell you is it's really sad when it does happen. However, if you're an attorney that's fair to your client and you recognize that, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to take from these guys any more than I need to. Let's hurry up and get this settled. Done. It's a lot better for the clients. It's a lot better for the kids. You're not robbing them of their generational wealth. You want to be willing to compromise. You want to be motivated to, reach an agreement. You want to move the needle in a positive direction. You want to be prepared to have all of your documents there. You want to be prepared to consider some out of the box thinking. Don't be so doggone rigid. Don't be inflexible. Let's talk about that for half a hot minute. So people can sometimes get in the way of their own success. It's a sad thing. You don't want to be so acrimonious in a deal. You don't want to be so wound up around this idea. Hey, guess what? I don't want to meet you in the middle. It's my way or the highway. It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. But, the more and more you entrench yourself and dig your heels into something that is not a hill worth dying on, the more unreasonable you become. Guess what happens? That's going to be seen through the lens of the court. It comes out naturally. If you're being this way now, mediators, attorneys, litigants, otherwise known as the parents, court ends up seeing it. It's easy to paint the picture. So, mediation does fail. Usually fails when one or both parties is really inflexible, doesn't want to move on an item or a list of items. When your communication fails, or someone's so angry with the other side that they don't even want to move, that they would rather be inflamed or have the acrimony of the inflammation of their emotions come out. Logic and reason leave then. I mean, when you just let your emotions control everything, it's pretty easy to get the short-term effect, but the long-term effect is so detrimental that it harms more than just you. It harms your kids. Your kids. Do you really want to harm your kids? Think about that one. Men and women both. When your emotions control the conversation. When your emotions control your decisions. When your emotions control your judgment. We also talk about this idea of being prepared, right? Have everything there. If you've got evidence, let's say it's a divorce, let's say you're talking property distribution, and you have evidence that shows that one party was dissipating assets over the other. That happens, It's important to have that there as part of the negotiating tool, because you can use it as leverage. Remember, there's creative tools that you can use that get you to that spot. Let's get to where we need to be. So it's important to be prepared. There's this term in the legal field called imbalance of power. This happens when one party, parent, husband, wife, wife, spouse, may have more money, substantially more money than the other parent. So that happens. Then it can be really, really sticky, especially if one parent has been mentally abused, has been physically abused. When one of the parents is just an outright bully. My experience is they're about half and half. I get about half women who are bullies, half men who are bullies. It's never a good situation. You don't want to be the bully. You don't want to roll over to it either, but and then the last bit, when you have these outlandish, crazy expectations. I should just have everything. I earned all the money. I should get to keep all the money. Okay. Or, I'm the mom. I carried the kid for 9 months. I get to keep the kid. It takes more than just mom to make that baby, though. We need to look at all of the facts. Is domestic abuse involved? Is one parent always cooking more than the other? Which kid do you think is affected more by mom leaving or dad leaving than the other one? Is mom going to be able to handle 3 boys on her own? Is dad going to be able to handle 3 girls on his own? I mean, all of these questions exist. Why don't you create an idea of how it could work and be open to the idea of, well, maybe they're onto something. Just because you hate each other's guts right now doesn't mean it's going to live forever. Guess what? Hurt feelings, you eventually get over them. If you don't, like my grandmother said, my great grandmother said this, you're either going to get over it or you're going to die from it. So, what's it going to be? Are you going to let it consume you like Moby Dick? Or are you going to get over it? Move forward. Look, we can't control what happens. We can't control what other people do. But we can control ourselves, we can control our words, and we can control how we react. You have a lot more control and power than you realize. You control yourself. I wish more parents would prioritize their kids over their own egos. Men and women both do it. Please, please, please. Set aside your ego. Prioritize your kids. You'll get through this. One day at a time, one foot in front of the other. Leave the anger and the hate, the frustration and the disappointment at the door. Look, love your kids because they're half the other parents anyway. Anyway, hope you all have a great night.